Welcome to the 16th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, Jacob Cowker of WTAJ Sports, and a special guest nitwit each week. The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells, Reed, and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By Your Rehab Choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday.
Hello and welcome into this pre-Pinstripe Bowl edition of the Nitwits alongside Mark Brennan, Neil Riddell, and Joe Nastasi. I'm Jamie Baker. Now, a couple months ago, guys, it didn't even look like a bowl was going to be a reality, and now we're heading to New York City in the middle of the holidays for the Pinstripe Bowl. What are your thoughts on that bowl and heading to NYC?
Well, I don't think it could have worked out better as far as the restoration of the bowl. The opponent, a familiar Eastern opponent, and particularly for the fans. And a lot of times the bowl game is about how you travel. But so many Penn State fans went to Ireland, which was fairly expensive, and this really affords a lot of even one-night bus trips to go in and see this game. And at a storied venue like Yankee Stadium, I just don't think Penn State could have expected a whole lot better.
Well, I think it could have been better if Pitt had been the opponent. That would have been, I think, it would have been a lot of fun.
Who would coach them, though?
Who does it really matter?
Question mark.
You know, maybe bring Wanstead back. But Neil, you're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of venue, in terms of being a great fit, and I also think this is great for the Pinstripe Bowl. The first year affiliated with the Big Ten, what better way than to get the Eastern flagship program in there? And just a great reward for all these seniors and the players who stuck through Penn State through some very difficult times. This is going to be a fun game. Looking forward to it. Fun time in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with both of you on that. Again, something in the West Coast at a 6-6 record, it's a little bit tougher to get excited about. You know, I'm glad that we're going to a bowl game, but again, this one sort of fits what our season was this year with the 6-6. So, you know, and again, playing the BC, I would have liked to see you know, Notre Dame or Pitt. That would have been maybe a little bit more exciting, but good that we have sort of an old foe in there with Boston College when we used to play in the East and Independent. So, looking forward to it.
Joe, you've been part of, I think it's kind of interesting to see, this will be our first go-around with this staff and what kind of preparation, how they do for the bowl. You know, Joe had a pretty good template where I don't know whether he could have taken the team to New York for 2 weeks for 2 days.
Yeah.
But showed up after the finals.
Well, they would have probably, I mean, I'm sure they're going to be in a bubble up there, so they'll be able to get some good work in. But Joe used to use it as a second spring. We would go a lot earlier than what the other teams would go. A lot of times they'd go 7 to 10 days before we'd go 20, or you know, shortly thereafter. However, it fit with the final schedule. But this staff seems like they were trying to do the same thing. They left the other day, so they were up. They're going to be up there for about 10, 12 days, 14 days, something like that. So. Again, it looks like they're trying to use the same format that Joe did, but you know, we were fortunate enough. We had 5 straight New Year's Day bowl games. Yeah. So and when I was there, so it was always the same for us. But it's going to be exciting. This is a good time, especially for the younger kids, to get a little bit more practice. Again, it's another spring basically. You get those practices in, so I think it's really going to help us out. I'm glad we're in a game. And what happens here, I don't really know. I'm not really sure how the matchup works. I didn't see any of BC
Don't
play
tip
this
off
year.
your prediction yet.
Oh no, I won't do that. I won't do that.
Well, what about, I mean, the ticket sales have been so brisk for Penn State. I mean, I think that's just another great sign. I mean, you think about everything this program's been through, and for the students to be queued up outside the Jordan Center and to snap up all those tickets within a matter of, what, an hour or something, and for fans to be buying up Penn State's allotment, there are going to be a ton of Penn State fans here. And as Joe noted, if this game was in Santa Clara, or if Penn State was in Santa Clara, it would have been very difficult to get people out there. So I think this place is going to be rocking and rolling. It holds, I think the capacity is just over 50,000. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a sellout, and it's going to be a nice atmosphere. Hopefully the weather isn't too bad.
Right.
Hopefully it's not just brutally cold. Maybe a little bit of snow would be fun, but I think this is going to be a cool atmosphere.
Shades of the NIT atmosphere.
There you go. Yeah, we can bring Bruce and Jerry and Ed DeCellis back.
I was talking to somebody who was saying, I think the largest alumni base out of Penn State is based in the New York City area. So with all these fans, like you said, and former students who may just have gotten out of college and all of a sudden they can take a bus trip there, I think that's going to be a huge thing. And especially in the grand scheme of things, kind of upping the excitement level even more from, James Franklin coming into the bowl games, being back, and now going to a place as close as New York City to play Yankee Stadium. I think that's amazing for the program.
I wasn't exaggerating about the NIT. I mean, the Garden literally shook when Penn State was winning the NIT a few years ago. So, a lot of the people, when you're a Penn State fan, you're used to traveling a lot, 3 hours in a lot of cases, and here all these an opportunity for all the people in the New York area.
The other thing I liked when they accepted, or when they did the press conference, Sandy Barber acknowledging Joe Paterno's New York heritage and what that kind of means to Penn State people. I think you're starting to see some of these little things that people were maybe reluctant to say before. When your AD steps up and says that, I think that's important. It is important. I mean, New York was a big part of Joe, and I do think that there's kind of a Penn State tie in there.
When you look at these kids, I mean, these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who have gone to Ireland and New York City, which is more than I can say in my travel in the last 3 months. So that's got to be pretty cool just as a player. I think that's awesome for them.
Yeah, and the other cool thing about this, Jamie, is I think they're going to have more of an opportunity, since they're going to be there for a little longer, they're going to have more of an opportunity to actually do New York type things. When they were in Ireland, they were kind of in a remote area, way outside of Dublin. It was very difficult for them to do touristy type things. Here, they're going to be right near, they're going to be in Manhattan, staying at a hotel there. They have a bunch of things set up for them. So for the kids, it's going to be cool to be able to get out and do some things.
That's what Joe was always worried about. He used to take us to a remote location, at least for the first part, so that it was all football. Because when you get involved in the bowl aspect of it, that's when all the tours and the travels, and you go from place to place through the bowl organization. That's what this will be all about for these guys. It's a lot of fun, but again, it's football mixed with a lot of events that they'll be doing, which is good for the kids too. And like you guys were referring to with the seniors, good for them that they get the opportunity to do that, because this is a class that never got to do that. So really, really happy that they're able to go do this.
Real quick, Neil knows, get them off their legs. We don't want them. That's Joe would always say. You didn't want the kids on their legs before the game.
Always. I mean, always.
And that they had a good formula generally, but there were times, depending on the kind of season you had, of maybe we can get to that later. I think that this team will be engaged. There were some years where they weren't overly engaged because they were a little disappointed either in the season or the venue. Or both.
'97, the second blockbuster bowl, when it was kind of everybody knew, predetermined where they were going to go. But this, I think people are going to be jacked about.
'97 was our.
It was Curtis Enos.
Outback.
It was when
Citrus. The Citrus was when Curtis was suspended. That was that game.
He was dressed well though.
Nice.
Well, we talked a little bit about the bowl venue, but now let's take a quick break and maybe talk a little bit about the actual football aspect of the game and kind of what all this extra stuff's going to help us out with. We'll be right back.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells, Reed, and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need.
I'm Glenn Carson from your Nittany Lions. You're watching the NitWits.
Welcome back. To say the offense has been a disappointment this year, maybe a little bit of an understatement. Now, with all these extra practices they're kind of fitting in, how much can that actually help over these few weeks?
I don't know. I mean, because I think the primary issue, and I've been talking about it all season, has been with the offensive line. And I think that led to some frustration on Christian Hackenberg's part. So maybe with Hackenberg, it gives him a chance to step back and maybe realize some of the things that were going wrong for him. But I don't really see, and Joe, you could probably speak to this, how much better can an offensive line get between the end of a season and a bowl game? It's not as if you're teaching a defensive back or receiver to run routes.
Right.
This is, for offensive linemen to get better, they have to get stronger, there has to be more cohesion, all these different things. And that's what worries me about Penn State going into this game.
Yeah, this will be more scheme than it is growth and talent. They'll probably scheme them to get them a little better position, maybe because they have that much time. But again, Boston College is doing the same thing. So, it wouldn't surprise me if we came out looking a lot different than, say, we did maybe most of the year, meaning like what we do, play calling, formation-wise. And that would, to me, would be something we would do offensively more than just from a straight talent standpoint, this guy got that much better. That's going to be tough from the Michigan State to this point. But again, it'll be more scheming, getting them in a better position for the bowl game. Yeah,
I really am not overly optimistic based on what we saw the last couple months.
You're taking the under.
It's 40. That there's going to be a lot of changes. I just don't know because if there was going to be a lot of changes, I think we would have seen them by now. So I think, again, and I think when we look in the rearview mirror this season, it's going to be, it's sort of written off as the first year, the transition, the offensive line, et cetera.
For everybody but Mike.
Yeah. He's looking for culprits.
Yeah. But listen, James Franklin said, and maybe this is a smokescreen because coaches have been known to do that, but when we had a chance to talk to him about the bowl, he said you have to be careful not to get too cute, not to add too many different things, because you'll not be good at that and not be good at what you were doing before. I'm not sure how much better they could get other than Hackenberg and maybe the receivers. I know Deshaun Hamilton took a little bit of exception to this whole separation business, but I do think that the receivers struggled a bit toward the end of the year, so maybe they could get better, maybe Hackenberg a little bit better, but I'm just not sure about that O-line overall.
We talk about the cohesion. When you look at some of these players, I know one of the big parts they've been talking about is getting these younger guys some reps in these extra practices. Who are some of these names you're kind of seeing stepping up and maybe taking a bigger role, not necessarily in the bowl game, but in the future?
Yeah, you see, to me, I think this is more about the players who are redshirting. When you talk about that, I think it's more about the Chance Sorrells, Chaz Wright, the offensive lineman, Torrance Brown on the defensive side. I think there are a lot of these kids who are redshirting who, again, with this offensive line, I think they're going to have to try to do some different things personnel-wise next year. So what better opportunity? Noah Bay is an offensive lineman who's redshirting this year. So a lot of those redshirting players, and Joe, you redshirted. I mean, how big was it for you that first?
Right. Well, it's just the reps with, maybe first or second team guys.
You were better than Ingram.
Yeah, see, I don't understand, Freddie and Bobby and Joe. I don't get it. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Look, we had to block all the time. It was a different time. They're saying, my kids were watching. I was showing them some USC. I put USC on, and when we played them in the Kickoff Classic, and all they were saying was, "Dad, you were holding on that play. Dad, you were." I said, "Wait." That's usually what a receiver doesn't want to hear. We want to be catching the ball, but Kurt ran for 250 that day, so we had to do something out there. But it's good for the younger guys, like you said, the redshirt freshmen who can really excel in these situations, because the coaching staff will get them in. They may put a couple guys in with the first team, second team offense to get to run, ones on ones. O&D, and give them an opportunity to really see what they can do in that more of a scrimmage style situation, as opposed to like during the year when they're working more scout team.
I'm curious, you mentioned Richard. What about this Tompkins kid? Isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a speed guy. I think he's a receiver. He's a speed guy. One of the issues was that they thought he wasn't quite strong enough, and clearly they knew what they had in Deshaun Hamilton, and I think that was why they decided to redshirt Tompkins. But there are some running backs, Nick Scott. There are a bunch of players who redshirted. Who people are like, well, why do these guys redshirt? I don't think they were going to beat out players ahead of them.
Right.
I don't think Tompkins was going to beat people out because he just wasn't physical enough. The offensive linemen, I think, have a huge upside, but they weren't quite ready this year.
Okay,
so that's why I think it's important.
Franklin has been the guy who's talked the most about the separation of the receivers, and most of the really fast guys are on defense. Isn't Haley, Campbell, aren't they? Didn't he say that? And Marcus Allen, the three fastest guys on the team, or then maybe that Tompkins?
Well, Tompkins is in that mix, but I don't think you could quibble with where they're putting defensive backs, because to me, the young defensive backs on this team have been just like unbelievable. I think you're looking at a secondary that is set for years to come if they stay healthy. So I think they're fine there. And I think people forget, Deshaun Hamilton did not even play last year, and because he was injured, didn't have any contact in the spring until the end of spring practice. So you're looking at a guy who set freshman records, who has a huge upside as well. So I don't really quibble with them not playing Tompkins, but I do think he's a guy that if he gets stronger can bring some speed to that offense.
Yeah, and a little bit to what you were saying, you get those guys that are not only not going to beat them out, but really not be that much of a difference maker. You're going to hold that year for them. It's only fair to the kid and to the program.
They need a good game out of Geno Lewis. I mean, at the early part of the year, they were pretty explosive against UCF. He was the guy that helped get him over the hump against Rutgers, and then he just leveled off the rest of the year. So, I mean, if you're going to win a game like this, I think he's another guy that's got to get back in the mix.
Well, we'll have to see what came out of those practices. And when we get back, we actually had a chance to take a look inside the practices last week, and we'll kind of look a little more at what those are doing for the team.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Monarch Cleaners for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life.
Now back to the Nitwits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
All right, so with the removal of the bowl sanctions, that means not only one extra game, but those 15 extra practices. We touched on it a little bit, but how important are those in the grand scheme of things?
Well, hey, you're talking about a team that has lost, 30 practices over the last 2 years. So I think it can't hurt. And again, it's a new staff, so we're learning about, what are some of the things that are emphasized. I mean, he talked about, program development more so than actually BC game planning at Bowl Media Day. So, I think that their younger players, particularly their line, they're going to look at, are they going to leave Gaia at the offensive line, or are they determined after this year? Same with the Dow remix and some of those things. I think those are the things that he may be talking about.
Also, I think just getting into a pattern, I mean, you would assume that this team will be a bowl-type team moving forward, and to get the players kind of used to being, I mean, listen, you're away from it for a couple years. It's got to be difficult. So I think just developing that pattern for the young guys and for everybody in the program, and to have a coaching staff get used to it. They've been to bowls the last couple years at Vanderbilt, so I think it's nothing but positive.
Yeah, everything's new. Again, usually the first part of the bowl preparation is, again, like I was saying before, a spring practice style, and then the second part is the game plan for the BC. So it's not hurting anything, let's put it that way. And again, everything being so new, staff, players, everybody's starting to try and gel a little bit. I think that's real important.
Plus, they had 2 byes, and then they played 6 straight. And Hackenberg was really banged up by the end of the year, so that in itself has got to help.
Well, speaking of Hackenberg being banged up, they lost another quarterback just last week, Michael O'Connor. That's the 5th quarterback to transfer out under the James Franklin era. I know he was only the 3rd-string quarterback, but how important is that?
No, you mean
the last few years.
Oh, the last few coaches, excuse me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the writing was kind of on the wall with O'Connor when he was beaten out. He enrolled last January and was beaten out by McSorley in the preseason, who enrolled in the summer. And then they have another kid coming in for this class that's signing in February, and then another kid the following year. So I think sometimes these are just situations where these young guys see the writing on the wall. There's nothing negative about this. This
Right.
kid will go somewhere, much like Stephen Bench did. Hopefully he finds a place to play, but I don't think he was really fitting into their plans.
Exactly, and when you look at that, they're going to have to fit what the coaching staff is looking for, and they all know that, and I'm sure they had discussions about it, and it was probably a mutual decision. Yeah. So it wasn't like you were saying before, negative. So a lot of people take it the wrong way sometimes.
You're seeing there's only one ball. You're seeing it more and more. Russell Wilson transferred.
Yeah,
I mean, so
worked out all right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of one
How
ball,
about Braxton Miller?
I think the NitWits standings are coming up soon. I believe there's
great.
a little more than one ball separating the leaders from
Yeah.
everybody else. So when we get back, we're going to make those predictions. Plus, take a look at that beautiful leaderboard on the NitWits standings.
Nice.
The NitWits are brought to you by the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday.
Welcome back to the NitWits. We've got a bowl game coming up here in just a few days. I mean, getting past Christmas, before New Year's, I need some predictions, guys. Who wants to start?
I guess I have to start since I'm the reigning Nitwit of the week. It took me a long time. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. Boston College brings a completely different offense than what Penn State's seen most of the year, but I think give Bob Shoop this much time, and I think he's going to do a good job game planning. I'm going to go Penn State 13, BC 10, and a defensive struggle.
Yeah, BC, unlike Penn State, has played real well on the road. They only lost at Florida State by a field goal. They've won a couple other games, pretty decisively on the road. I think beat Virginia Tech on the road. I'm going to say BC. I've just not seen enough to make me think that Penn State's going to fix this this quickly. I don't know. I'm going to say BC 17, Penn State 13.
Okay, Joe?
Okay, well, kind of agree with the defensive part of the game here, and you get a little bit of weather up there. Weather would probably be our friend in this game again. I'm going to go Penn State 20, BC 19.
All right, I got to go. Jacob Calker specifically texted in to talk to me about this, and we decided.
No
I know. That's what I told him.
Penn State
I got
a
this.
blowout, right?
Yeah. He'd kill me. Now we decided to go Boston College 17-7, like you said, with it could be snowing. I've seen Pinstripe bowls in the past. It doesn't look great. Snow, just the offensive struggles, and I've seen Boston College against some of those ACC teams doing really well. And Jacob Calker and I combined to do decently. I know I was only one.
We take one ball away from him for not being here and add the one that you got right. You might be the Nitwit of the year.
Well, there we go. Let's take a look at our Nitwit standings. Look at that.
We're all
solid.
slow in the house. Jake's been penalized.
The no winner has really kind of made a big push.
Is that mine? That has to be mine.
Yeah. Who was?
Talk that over with Mike.
Yeah, that was definitely you, Joe. There's no way Mike would have gotten one right, is there?
But no, I mean he claimed that he got.
I'll take it.
There you go. We'll give it to you, Joe. We'll give it to you.
Right.
That's our Christmas present
to
you.
Go. Got the tie and everything.
Exactly. So Penn State, Boston College, December 27th. Hopefully everybody's going to be staying warm. I heard the press box is actually windows open, so congratulations to everybody. Normally not on the field. It's going to be just as cold.
Yeah, we'll be here to wrap it up.
Just like in Dublin.
Next week.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the pre-Pinstripe Bowl edition of the NitWits. We'll see you again next week.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells, Reed, and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By Your Rehab Choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday. You can also see the Nitwits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.